you've got a wheat crop out there, the wheat price is not too bad, and pretty soon you're gonna have heads on the wheat, maybe you already do depending on what part of the country you're from. So you're thinking about controlling Fusarium head blight, but you say, boy, wheat isn't $20 like last year. I don't know if I wanna spend the money.
No, you know, this is the worst thing. This is why we have such a big problem with Fusarium head blight. It's not because of the weather or anything else. It's because it's the end of the year and it's the last expense for the crop. You've already spent the money. You think, oh man, I've already put this much in. Your banker's probably telling you, hey, you've already put this much in. Don't skimp on the last 10 bucks. That's what's really going to make things. You can really lose big yield.
Yeah, but here's the thing I think a lot of people go through is they just don't get great coverage because you've got this wheat head out there and it's hard to get good spray coverage on that. What are you going to do a good job and actually make the product work well? I think that's almost a bigger issue than anything else. Because if you can get that fungicide on there, you'll do fine.
You talk about spray coverage, and normally we're talking about weeds and laying things on leaves that are laying horizontal. We're talking about a wheat head that's sitting vertical and it's not really all that big. So how do you get coverage, you know, when you're spraying from the top, how do you get it on the sides? The whole thing is you have to change the angle of how you're hitting that wheat head. You need a different spray tip, something that is going to hit it from the side. Now, if you've got a spray tip that's just going to spray from one angle and hit one side, you're going to do a pretty good job coating up the one side of the head. But if you've got a spray tip that sprays both ways like this, so you're driving at the crop, you've got one that's angling down at a 45 and one that's angling back at a 45, you now can spray both sides of that head and do a good job. The key here is you need plenty of water, plenty of pressure, so you have small spray droplets.
I'm going to disagree.
And you can't drive 20 miles an hour and do a great job getting coverage.
I'm going to disagree with that. I don't think you need a lot of water. I think it's the exact opposite. I think that's what's getting a lot of guys into trouble is they're using too much water. I think you should have 10 or even 5 gallons of water because we don't have a lot of stuff to cover. We're not talking about fungicide to get on the lower leaves of the plant. You know, yes, you'll get some rust control out of using Folicure, Prosaro, or Caramba, but I just think you want to run with maybe a little lower water here. The main thing is, like Darren said, you've got to use that twin jet nozzle and get good coverage on both sides of that head because it is vertical. It's something different than what you're used to spraying with everything else. Here's the other thing, you got to have the timing right. I think this is the other issue that catches a lot of guys. You want to spray when you have about 15% flowering. Okay, so the head's got to be out and you want to see about 15% flowering. Well, that timing is about a 2-day window there. I mean, to be ideal. And the thing is, once you start to see some scab out there, once you start to see that Fusarium head blight develop, you're already too late. So you got to do it just at the right time. You got to spray regardless of whether or not you see this Fusarium head blight. You want to be spraying actually early before you see anything.
Okay, now there is a little bit of wiggle room here. You can see we're arguing on some of the fine little details. Here's something where the only way you're going to know is trying it out on your farm. Maybe you say, I don't know about these twin jets. I just use a flat fan. All right, fine. You know, have your triple nozzle body or 5 nozzle bodies on your sprayer. Click it over to that flat fan for a little bit, make a couple passes, then click it over to that twin fan for most of the farm because trust me, it's going to be better. And you'll see that difference out in your field. Then play around with some different water levels. Use 5 gallons of water and see what kind of spray coverage you get. Then use 10 or use 15 and try some different things on your farm. Yeah, you aren't going to do everything 100% of your acres the exact best way this year, but at least you can go out there and look at stuff and say, man, you know what, I did do a little bit better with this or I did do a little bit better with that. For real world conditions on your farm with your equipment, the best way to know is do some trials yourself.
Here's the other thing. Make absolutely sure you are not using a Strobe Urine product like Headline or Quadris or any combination products that contain a Strobe Urine like Quilt or Stratego. The reason why is when you have a strobe sprayed around heading time, you'll probably increase your DON levels. That is a bad thing. You got to go with a straight triazole, something like Folicure, Prosaro, or Caramba. Now, a lot of guys will say this year, well, I don't want to spend the $15 an acre that I'd have to for Caramba or Prosaro. Don't get me wrong, you're going to do a lot better job on head scab with Prosaro or Caramba than you will with Folicure, but Folicure is really cheap. I mean, you're talking $3, $4 an acre for the full rate. That's cheap.
You get what you pay for, though. If you want to get pretty decent protection, or if you want to get really good protection, it does cost a little bit different. So whatever, if you want to drive
yeah, but the nice thing,
then go for it.
Well, the nice thing now though is before the option was $15 or nothing. So at least now you've got something out there. So if, let's say on your farm, you're going to do nothing, don't do that. You want to at least use the Folicure out there. It's less than a bushel of wheat. I mean, you're for sure going to get that back. So I would at least do that much. And also don't forget, Folicure is great on rust. In fact, I'd say it's better than what Prosaro or Caramba would be. So you'll do a good job on rust control for sure with that Folicure, and you'll do okay on scab. But for $3 or $4, it's probably worth it.
Okay, so this year, as your wheat crop is finally coming to its potential, don't skimp on the last few dollars you're going to spend on that acre. Make sure you're protecting your crop from Fusarium head blight if you want to have successful wheat.
Another thing you need to protect your crop from is our Weed of the Week. Can you identify this week's weed?